My name is Jim Urban. That's Urban. And I've been volunteering here seriously, that is after Tier 1 training, 27 years. But I began volunteering here in 1983
Okay.
at a Madrigal dinner.
Oh, how fun. Okay, awesome. So, what encouraged you to start volunteering here?
I was asked by one of the committee chairs of that Madrigal dinner in '83 if I would be interested in being a waiter at the Madrigal dinner. And I said, sure. So I did that, and after that I came to every Madrigal dinner, but by this time I was the official beef eater. And the beef eaters dressed in costume and carried in the boar's head, the figgy pudding, etc. And we had fun.
Yeah. How long did you do the Madrigal dinners for?
I think the Madrigal dinners ended about 2003, 2004, in that area.
Okay. Was that like the big Christmas?
It was the 2 weeks before Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. What was your knowledge and opinion of Stan Hywet prior to volunteering here?
I moved to Akron in 1962. Employment brought me here, B.F. Goodrich, the other company. And one of my first tour-type visits was to Stan Hywet. So this was in late '62. And then I came back several times after, brought family members. So, yes. So my first visit was in '62.
And what about the place made you want to volunteer?
Well, it was a very interesting house, a beautiful home. And of course, I was in the rubber industry, and this was part of the rubber industry. I sort of had a connection. And I love history. And there's a lot of history, especially if you delve into the architecture, Tudor architecture.
Yeah, and this place has tons of it. Super beautiful. There's art history here. Hey,
And speaking of art history, I wish you would resurrect the Decorative Arts Tour. That was my favorite tour. It was like studying for a college course, but
fun one. Maybe as a like a one-off tour, maybe Members Appreciation Week or something. Who used to do that?
volunteers. Yes, it was 3 years. Decorative Arts. Each year was a different segment of the art. I like to call it sculpture and wall art. It was art of architecture, and then fabrics and textiles on the third. And it was going to be in '07 a combined, because that was going to be our anniversary here at Stan here, never came into being. So it was just those three years, 4, 5, and 6.
That sounds fascinating.
Okay. What sorts of roles have you held at Stan Hywet over the years you volunteered, and what was your favorite role or responsibility?
Well, as I mentioned, I was a beef eater. That was fun. Also, many years ago, we had a decorative egg show. And I chaired the show for 10 years. And it may not be my favorite, but my overall favorite role was in history firsthand, playing Chef James.
History firsthand?
Yes, history firsthand. That was fun. And delving into the history of the character. Of course, we were all fictitious characters, but we were surrounded with facts. And so I studied all of 1920. I read the entire Beacon Journal for 1920, and then even before that. So give me some background.
That's dedication.
Yeah.
That's impressive. How long did you play Chef James? Like, when did you start playing shots? I know you still do, but when did you
Well, I sort of retired, although Linda Lohr brought me out of retirement 2 weeks ago for that Nooks and Crannies. I don't remember when I started in history firsthand, but it was fun.
Do you remember about when History Firsthand started in general? Or?
It was organized before I joined it, maybe by a couple of years. I'm trying to think. 06, 07, someplace in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What was a typical? Oh, sorry. What did a typical day of volunteering look like when you first started volunteering here? How's it different from today, maybe?
Well, I also changed. I started here after, when we're talking about the interpretive after Tier 1. I was a Monday guide. We were open on Mondays. And initially, I only worked half a day. Then when we closed on Mondays, I transferred to Tuesdays, and then I took on all day Tuesday, and then since then, all day Friday. And so I probably changed more than the program changed.
What is your favorite reason for volunteering at Stan Hywet?
Again, the location, the grounds, the house, very important. And then the volunteers that you work with, the staff. I've met some very, very interesting volunteers and staff, and some became personal friends.
That's wonderful. Okay, this is a fun question. What's your favorite place on property, and what's your favorite room in the house?
Favorite, I know the English garden is wonderful, but I think I prefer the dell. It's just peaceful.
I agree.
But the English garden, I have all kind of imagination going on there. There'd be a fairyland that decked the hall. Safety purposes, I would not recommend it, but that could be transformed into a fairyland.
That could be really cool.
And in the house, well, the music room obviously is spectacular. There's no question about it. But my favorite room is the library. It's comfortable, and I like books. My second favorite room is the breakfast room. I would love to have a meal there.
I agree. It's very cozy in there, too. Good place to have breakfast. Do you have any fun advice or tips for visitors? Things that you've learned over the years that you would recommend people do when they come visit?
Normally when I tell visitors before or after or during a tour, make sure after they see the house, make sure you see all of the gardens and the lagoons. Many people ignore that or just walk around, but there's so much to see on the grounds. And looking back at our history, the 2 years that we had the tree houses, this gave the guest an opportunity to walk down Pleasure Drive to see all the tree houses.
That's really cool. Can you tell me more about the tea houses?
The tree houses, they were scattered throughout the property, and they were up in the trees. And we had one at the front door, but each one had a different theme, and they were fascinating.
That's really cool.
You know,
How long did we have them?
I don't remember the years, but I think we had them 2 years. The one in front of the house had wind chimes or some kind of chime. A little bit irritating to the hostess who was at the front door. And the tree house closest to the gate lodge was interesting also. But that was just a fun event.
It does sound fun. I'm sad to have missed it.
And it got our guests to walk the grounds.
Speaking of memories,
Well, just meeting Irene Seiberling, because she was a character, and I met with her several times, and in fact got to know her children. So I was fortunate in that. Of course, Sally lived here in the Gate Lodge for a while while her mother was still alive. So I did get to know Irene and her three children. Now, Bob lived in Seattle, so I did see him just a couple of times. He liked to talk. I think the family liked to talk.
This might be a question later, but we're kind of on the subject. Did you have a favorite event that you helped for, or a favorite program that you did over the years volunteering here?
Again, probably history firsthand. That was fun. Another, well, I'm trying to think now, because we had so many events over the years, and I've always enjoyed being the butler at the front door for gala.
Yeah.
And over the years, I got to know several of the guests.
Okay, so we're going to move into some early Stan Hywet history here. So, what did the earliest fundraiser, what did early fundraising look like at Stan Hywet? Do you kind of remember the earliest fundraiser you remember helping with, or what it looked like?
Well, some of our events are all fundraisers. I was volunteering here at Ohio Mart in the early years, and yes, that is a fundraiser, and it's a fun fundraiser.
Mm-hmm. It is a fun
Yeah.
fundraiser. What was your involvement with Ohio Mart in the early days and even now?
There was an entertainment committee, and they dressed me as the bee feeder, and I greeted guests, and basically I was a traffic cop, telling people where to go, or what are they looking for, and greeting them. And the opening, we had a official ribbon cutting opening of Ohio Mart in the archway, and so I would stand there, and Sally Cochran would cut the ribbon, and the guests would come into the estate. That has changed completely because of just logistics.
Do you think any of that might have had to do with like the numbers of people who come?
The numbers, absolutely. Today we have a lot more people coming in, and when I chaired food and beverage for Ohio Mart, and I think I did that for almost 20 years, I would tell our vendors that on good weather weekend, we could expect up to 16,000 people. That's how I sold our vendors to coming to us.
Mm-hmm. And how many do we usually get a year now?
It's getting close to that, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it is 4 days.
It is
No.
4 days, that's true. Yeah. Okay. Fun.
And speaking of Ohio Mart, did you get this is off the record, did you get a chance to go to Hardesty Park this weekend?
I did, and I wanted to though.
Uh,
I'm driving by it, and then I didn't have any time yesterday.
that is a fun and a very nice art show.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, many of the artists there come to Ohio Mart.
Some good Akron history in there, right?
Yes.
Okay. What were your feelings regarding the separation of Stan Hywet Incorporated from the foundation in 1990? Do you have any memories about that?
I remember that, and maybe my mind is a little foggy. Probably could have been better explained to me, but from what I understand, I saw the advantages of the separation. The number of trustees were enormous. And I also was very involved with the Akron Symphony at the same time. In fact, I was president of the Symphony Guild. And at one time, the Akron Symphony had a huge board of directors. And were they involved? No.
So you felt like that was a similar thing was happening here?
Yes, I think it was a good move. But like I said, it may have, my mind is foggy. It could have been maybe better explained to me, but from what I understand, I thought it was a good move.
Did you feel like it was a big change suddenly, or was it a pretty seamless transition?
From where I was at, it was a seamless transition. Now, I suppose if you were very much involved with the staff, etc., you may have seen changes, but from where I was, no.
Were there any, not necessarily changes in leadership, but just changes in general that impacted your job or other volunteers around you, whether they be good or bad?
The changes, I don't think, affected me personally or some of my volunteers, or co-volunteers here. The current changes, the terminology. When I first started in the rubber industry, I signed my papers at the personnel office, and that changed to human resources. Now it's called something entirely different, which I do not understand. And it's a director of external events, Why not development, I grew up with that term. Don't change. Some of us don't like changes.
Yeah.
No, that's a minor bit,
Yeah, but still your feelings on it, that's relevant. Were there any interpretation or education initiatives that you really enjoyed participating in? I know you mentioned history firsthand.
History firsthand and the decorative arts.
Okay, those are your two big ones.
Yes, and those two were, because it's a little bit different, but they were very interesting, especially interacting with other history firsthand characters. I'll give you an example. Ed Searle, who was our butler, C.B. White, we had a little routine with tongue sandwiches because Gertrude Seiberling requested one evening tongue and tongue sandwiches, and we would tell guests about the tongue, and of course most guests, especially children, would turn up their nose, tongue. So, and also Ed and I had a routine with the Cleveland Indians, going to an Indians game in 1920 to see that new baseball player, Babe Ruth. No baseball player is worth $125,000, and that's what the Yankees paid for to get Babe Ruth. So the interaction between the characters was fun, and also engaged our guests in that process.
Yeah, very cool. I guess I know another thing that you do is just give tours in general. What do you like about giving tours? What's your favorite part about giving tours?
I enjoy giving the tours, excuse me, and because you meet some interesting people, and you could tell people who are not all that interested, but generally they are interested. And giving tours to children, you have to give a different type of tour, and I enjoy talking with the children. And I had a couple come through the house recently, and they looked at me and said, "We remember you from 17 years ago." I said, "What outrageous thing did I do then?" And they were bringing their 7-year-old son, and the son did not want to come. Well, who wants to see a 100-year-old home? Well, I have a little routine when I see a youngster, and I would say, "How old are you?" And they would say, 7 years old. I said, "I hope you realize that when the Seiberling family moved in here, their youngest boy, Franklin, was 7 years old. Well, this youngster remembered that, and he still talks about it, and he's 24 years old." But yes, that's why this couple remembered me from 17 years. But I also like the self-guided. Now, I know a lot of people objected when we went to self-guided. I get a chance to talk to guests more on a self-guided tour. And for instance, I encountered a family in the West Porch. I talked to them, found out that he's a lawyer up in Willoughby, and his office is in a Penfield house, Gertrude's cousin. And I arranged a trip to Willoughby for the Guild, a busload of people, and I called him up, and he gave us a tour of his law office, which was the former home of the mayor of Willoughby. So the guests that you meet are interesting. And I noticed a couple of times a guest with a big clunky ring. And I said, what's the significance of the ring? Well, there's one gentleman and his son, he was a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, and that's a World Series ring. So I meet some interesting people.
That's awesome. Okay, so how do you think Stan Hywet has and continues to build a sense of community here among staff and with the city of Akron? These are the harder questions, so take your time.
We have to be outgoing and looking forward, and include the community. And some of our education programs, I think, are going in the right direction. And with the school groups visiting, especially the specialized school group.
Are you referring to ACO?
Yes, the ACO, and then because you get these people interested, and I'll give you a good example. Barberton schools came here on visit, and a couple weeks later, a mother came in with two children, and so I was talking to them, self-guiders, and mom was saying that her boys came to the tour, Stan Hywet with the classroom, and they said, Mom, you have to see this house. So they dragged them. So the school tours do something. They light up some of the minds. Old Trail School, that program is excellent.
Have you ever been a judge for the Old Trail?
No, I have not. No.
What are your thoughts on the presentations that the Old Trail group?
Old Trail, those children really know their subject matter, and so I'm impressed with all of them.
Okay. What does it mean to you for Stan Hywet to be a community asset?
It is a community asset because we are no longer the rubber capital of the world, but this is where the rubber industry basically started. You know, I know the East Coast people would argue with me, but we are so much of the history of Akron and the rubber industry, and so many communities throughout the area don't have some historic homes remaining. For instance, the homes on Millionaires Row in Cleveland, how many are left? Maybe 2, 3. So we should appreciate what we have and expose the community to it through the various events. And then one, of course, is Ohio Art that brings in a lot of people.
What do you think makes Stan Hywet relatable? And do you think, what do you think can be done to help improve relatability?
It is relatable, but we have to educate some of the community, and I don't know how you could get some of these people involved or interested. My neighbors across the street, they've lived in Akron 35 years, and last Mother's Day was the first time they've ever been to Stan Hywet. So we have to get these people somehow interested. Now, when I lived in Milwaukee, my very first weekend I was there, I went visited the Pabst Mansion, you know, because I'm interested in 100-year-old homes.
I am too. Okay, and then one more big question, and then maybe we'll have a couple little questions or if you have any questions. But where do you hope to see Stan Hywet be in the next 20 years?
Through the various programs, also in 20 years, if we could get ourselves exposed to more of the area, the state, even the nation. Antique Roadshow, I think, did a wonderful job in doing that. So we've had people from all over the country. You know, they did not know anything about Stan Hywet until they saw it. Also, do you remember a few years back when the U.S. Postal Service came out with their series of commemorative stamps, Gardens of America, our Birch Tree Alley was one. And there was one couple that came in from Pittsburgh. They are making a tour of all the gardens from those postage stamps.
Whoa,
Now that's different.
that is cool.
Again, I met them through the self-guided tour.
There you go.
You get a chance to talk to people more on the self-guided tour than on a guided tour.
You mentioned Antiques Roadshow. What were your memories of Antiques Roadshow? And like, was it exciting? Like, what do you feel like the vibe at the time was when you were
Well,
getting ready for that?
I participated because I brought 2 items of unimportance, but it was well organized, well managed, and they knew what they were doing. You know, we were timed what time to get on the bus, and so. But it was fun just to see the operation and what other people were bringing.
Yeah, really cool event. Cool. Do you have any questions?
Oh, I was gonna, I can't remember if you asked, but what keeps you coming back, Jim?
Yeah.
You can't get rid of me.
We don't want to get rid of you.
No, because, you know, I've given up some of my duties here because of age. And with Mackenzie on the 3rd floor, I'm not going to visit him very often there. I don't want to climb these stairs. But I still have an interest. I don't want to divorce myself completely. So I came back for the members' night. I was here for Father's Day.
And you think it's the people that you've worked with?
Well, there's an important thing. My fellow volunteers, I'll give you a good example. We are a close-knit Tuesday group, and to me, it's almost like a family, because we know when they're sick, when their husbands or wives are sick, and they are closer to me than my personal family, because I don't see my personal family that often. But, you know, I see them every Tuesday. And this is true for the Friday group, especially on the Tuesday group.
What do you think it is about this place that allows for that sense of community and family amongst volunteers and amongst staff?
Because I think most of us have a general interest in the house, the estate, and this brings us here. Oh, occasionally people drift out to other places, but you know, we stick it together and stick it out. So we have become quite close. When, as I mentioned earlier, when we closed on Mondays, and I was shopping around for another day, I almost have to be interviewed by that Tuesday group. You know, they were very protective. They didn't want these outsiders coming in. Well, I became one of the Tuesday group.
That's
Great.
awesome.
Awesome. And then I know that you talked about meeting Irene as one of like your top memories, but do you have any like memories of the events or like that you'd say is like your top memory?
Of events? Oh, it's because there's so many interesting events that we've had, and they've changed over the years. Like I mentioned, the Madrigal dinners, we don't have them. I don't recommend that we resurrect that, because that took a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it was primarily volunteer organized. But I'm trying to think what event. Maybe it is the Madrigal dinner.
What's your favorite?
Yeah, because it was so different. Because the participants, not the guests, we were all in costume. It was a medieval atmosphere, musicians, etc., and including jugglers and the musicians. And the guests loved it. In fact, I was working in the rubber industry, and as an entertainment for some of my customers, I gave them tickets to the Madrigal dinners, unbeknownst to them that I was going to be one of the participants. So when they were seated at the dinner, I came in costume, and they were surprised. I did that a couple of years, and it was good company entertainment, and it served a purpose. I introduced them to Stan Hywet.
Yeah. You mentioned how you don't think we should bring the Madrigal dinners back, but are there any events that you wish we still did, or that you have a lot of fond memories of?
Oh, some of those that in the past, we've had so many little ones. I mentioned that I chaired the egg show. That was a free event, and you can't do too many free events here. I have to be truthful. And the guests that came here free, they would pay an additional fee to come into the manor house, so it wasn't completely free. I'm trying to think some rather events that we had. We had antique shows years ago, and not antique roadshow. Miniature show. I never realized how many people were into miniatures. No, there's nothing that really should be brought back in. But there's always an opportunity to have another event. I would love to see us, there's an event, a musical arts series. After we dedicated the organ, what was that, 12 years ago, we had a musical arts series here. And after 2 seasons, I think it just fizzled. We're looking for a sponsor. I know 1 year, Billow's funeral directors sponsored the season. And that was, we had a Valentine concert here, and it was love songs. Jim Mismus, who at that time was on the faculty at Kent State, also music director at Westminster Presbyterian. He organized, and it was love song. But the musical arts series, and now your job is to get the organ updated, because I know it needs some repair work or voicing, I guess the organ people call it.
Some restoring.
But yes, musical art series, that's one that should be revived.
Speaking of restoring, I failed to ask a question about it. Do you remember over the years volunteering in the house, were there any big conservation or restoration projects that you remember happening that you thought were really cool, or it was really neat to see the transition from what it looked like before to what it looks like now in recent years, or in far flung years?
Well, not so much restoration, but opening the maids' quarters up, because those are offices. When I first started here, the curator had the office on the second floor, and they looked like offices. So also my very first tour here, that guest wing was closed off. So we couldn't see the William and Mary room and the Adam room. In fact, well, Irene lived in the Adam room for a little bit, and then there was a sort of a conference room because in our early records, I think the WAB at that time had a members meeting of some kind with a luncheon in the Adam room. So, but as far as restoration of the house, we've had so many projects here, and simple ones like cleaning the rugs, because we sent the rugs out to Hamid Rug, those in the guest rooms, and Virginia's room, the rug just popped out in color because it was a little grayish over the years. But, you know, it's a simple restoration, but it was noticeable. And the lampshades in the library on the floor lamps, when those were restored, because they do not look what they originally looked like, you know, when I first started here, because they look good with the beaded work. Now I understand, because I know I met the person who did the bead work. One of the lampshades have original beads. The other one is replacement beads. And which is which, I do not know. I don't think we know.
It's probably in its record, but they did a good job. They did a very good job. You mentioned the opening of the FDQ wing. Do you remember about when that happened, the FDQ in the guest wing?
I don't remember when that happened.
I'm sure
Because I think Margaret Tromentine, who was the curator, her office was in the second floor in one of the maids' rooms.
And she was a curator, correct?
Yes.
I know that you like to find things about Stan Hywet out in the community and sometimes bring them back. Can you tell us more about how you find these things, or how you? Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's just going to estate sales, tag sales. For instance, one of the volunteer awards that we get is this periodic tile. The one I have, that I've received, I have it framed. It's hanging in the my family room. But I went to an estate sale and picked up another tile. And I also picked up a second tile. So I have 3 Stan Hywet periodic tiles. But it's amazing what's out there. And friends know that I'm involved with Stan Hywet and say, oh, I found this. You know, would you be interested? So yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. What motivates you to do that, other than your love of history? Is there something deep down that makes you want to do it, or is it just...
It's something that I would want to do, because I could easily just pass it off. Oh, that's nice, you know, but no, that has a meaning to me. And of course, I'm involved with Stan Hywet, so there's a connection.
And then, in general, do you feel like Stan Hywet is going in a really good direction to be more part of the community?
Right now, I think we're going in the right direction, again, with the encouragement of education programs. And, you know, we think education with children, but there's a lot more education available. And adults, you know.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. This is so great.
Well, that wasn't all that bad.
All right, good.
Yeah, I don't know if I made any sense.
Yeah,
You did,
for
definitely.
sure. Did you have anything else you wanted to say before we close out?
But, you know, I had mentioned the decorative arts, and there's so many little details. My favorite artist is Teslov, who painted F.A.'s portrait that's hanging, because I really dug into his biography, because he is a Renaissance man. He was a musician, a painter, And he married an opera singer, and he palled around with opera singers. Just an interesting man. In fact, his son was a professional skater. Skated with Sonia Henney in one of the movies. Now, speaking of Sonia Henney, one of our Tuesday volunteers, and she was a short woman, Esther Erickson. In her younger days, she skated with Sonia Henney in her ice show.
That's so cool.
And when she never appeared in the movies with Sonia Henney, but she was in the ice show. And when the skaters would do this sort of whip going around, she was always the last one. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah. And another volunteer, so we get to know each other.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool. All of our volunteers are so fascinating.
I know. It's not just the guests, it's the volunteers too. Anyway, it's pretty interesting here.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you again.
Well, okay.
Yeah.